Welcome everybody to another episode of Resilient Riches. I'm walking around Manhattan. I see art everywhere. And I asked my wife, I said, whose art is this? And she's like, oh, you don't know Elizabeth Sutton? I said, I have to know Elizabeth Sutton. So we do this tour dedication. Next thing you know, I see some girl and she's just dancing and partying and having the best time and just doing this most amazing thing. My wife's like, yeah, that's Elizabeth Sutton. I go, I didn't know. And so she's like, you got to get her on the podcast. So due to popular demand from like 5 different avenues, I had to get Elizabeth Sutton on the podcast. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for everything what you're doing. I know you're just launching a new cookware. You were telling dinnerware. Sorry, we were uneducated in that capacity. But and then I go to my friend's apartment and I see your artwork all over my friend's apartment. And your artwork's all over the world. It's just amazing. So it's such an honor to have you. I'm really excited for everything. And really appreciate what you're doing and want to hear your story. So Elizabeth Sutton, everybody, welcome to the podcast. And thank you everybody for coming.
First of all, thank you for having me. The name of your podcast is Resilient Riches, and resilience is probably my biggest upside in my personality type, which is why I've gotten myself through a lot of hard situations. What do? I'm an artist, designer, entrepreneur. I create very luxury paintings for fine art clients on the residential and hospitality side. I design 6 award-winning tile collections for Tile Bar in luxury hotels and homes around the world. Think Mario Carbone's restaurant in Miami with the major food group, Bahamar in the Bahamas, Whole Foods. They're really everywhere. I design wallpapers, rugs. You can find them on Target, desk chairs on Office Depot. And I'm about to launch my dream collection, my dinnerware collection, which is actually a result of my advocacy. We'll get there. I have 2 kids. I'm a single mom.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Shout out to single moms.
Yes.
America's heroes. Because without you, we'd have a lot more shitty kids.
I thank God. Of all the challenges God brought into my life, He blessed me with what was most important, which is my health and 2 incredible children. Two.
And living on the Upper East Side.
I don't know if that's one of the best things in the world. I'd move to Bali if I could, but
yeah.
How old are your children, Elizabeth?
My son is almost 10. I'm going to age myself right now. And my daughter is almost 8.
Wow. That's the real deal.
Good kids.
What's the thing? It's when they're 13, when girls are 13 years old, the aliens come, they take your child.
That's my story. You can't steal my theory. That's my theory.
Say your story, but say it quick because we don't have enough time for your stories.
Well, I have a theory. Nobody's refuted me yet I have 1 daughter and 5 sons. So around 12, 13, whatever, aliens come.
Scary life for her.
She's the toughest of them all. So I have a theory. Aliens come from another planet. They take your daughter and they put into there an exact replica, but it's some alien. And they take your daughter to their planet. And then around, could be 1920, depending on the person, on the daughter, they'll bring back your daughter and take back their alien. And you'll never see physically any difference. That's my theory. So you'll let me know in a few years what you think.
I'm hearing that from my boyfriend who is at that alien age right now. So
yes. His son's also tough too. I know his son. But so Elizabeth, let's just first talk about your art. How do you get your inspiration? Where are you finding your art? Like you're designing very different type of stuff than what most artists do. Most artists will paint on a piece of canvas and say, thank you very much. And who wants to buy and move on. But you're designing functional wear. You're designing dinnerware. How are you getting your inspiration? And why did you decide to go into this avenue versus traditional?
So first of all, I call myself an Upper East Side housewife gone rogue. I got married at 21, was traditional, religious, was not allowed to work. And I started painting one day because we lost our money and I couldn't afford the art I wanted anymore. I painted on a Sunday. I put it on Instagram and someone sent me a DM saying, I love your art. Can you make me something? I said to myself, a little bit of time, a little bit of money. Why not? And that's actually what started my art career. When I was getting divorced, I knew I was walking away with very little other than a lot of tenacity and a desire to make my life better again. And I was taking on a big burden to earn a lot of money. As you said, I had 2 kids on the Upper East Side. That is not a cheap life, no matter how much you cut back. And I basically had to figure out a way to earn $500,000 a year pre-tax dollars within a 2.5-year period when I was earning nothing. So I said, okay, I need to go into product because
let me stop you there for a second because that's very crucial. You and we've been talking about this a lot. You put a mindset on yourself, and did you do what practices did you do to make that $500,000 reality?
I worked from 4 a.m. till 1 a.m. every single day.
Did you manifest? Did you
All the
work with
time.
mindset coaches? Like, give us specifics.
I did not work with mindset coaches. During a 2.5-year period, I actually went through a lot of challenges. Talking about resilience. Within 2.5 years, one of my best friends was killed, hit by a bus after sitting on my couch when I was 6 months pregnant. She was killed at 29 years old. Right after that, we lost all our money. My father-in-law had a heart attack, got cancer. My marriage was on the rocks. And then I just started working actually to contribute towards my family. I had no intention of getting divorced. Divorce and fear of financial insecurity were my two biggest fears in life due to my parents' awful divorce, which took 7 years, and I don't speak to my father as a result. And then I had a miscarriage. When you go through like a sudden loss, it definitely makes you contemplate and evaluate your life. And I realized that I was in the wrong marriage. And for as long as I stayed in the wrong marriage, I was going to become a worse version of myself. And I was not proud of who I was in that marriage. And I decided I need to get a divorce. 5 weeks later, I asked for a divorce. And later that night, I found that I was pregnant with my daughter.
Oh.
Yes. And thank God to an amazing therapist, I kept my precious daughter, who's my best friend. But again, I was in terrible headspace, like really terrible headspace. I got run over by a semi-truck when I was 9 months pregnant. 10 weeks into my pregnancy with my daughter, my father-in-law died. The day of his funeral, I bled out everywhere. Thought I saw another baby. Was in the hospital 5 times. Got run over by a semi-truck, 9 months pregnant. And when my daughter was 3 weeks old, I left my marriage.
It wasn't a real truck. It was just a semi-truck. So it wasn't that big of a deal.
The largest truck that they come. And when you actually get an accident, no, a semi-truck is the largest truck that they have. So when you get into a car accident with a semi-truck, they write it up as...
It doesn't sound very good. Either way, it doesn't sound very good.
Yeah.
And I left when my daughter was 3 weeks old. I started hustling. I just was so happy to have my freedom. And I was so shocked that I was able to create art because, again, I'm not a trained artist. This was from God. So I didn't have the concept of managing supply and demand. First of all, even though I went to business school, I never had a real job other than my fashion internship in college. And I worked as a secretary for my grandfather's law firm. But I got married at 21 and didn't have a job.
So you did go to college, it sounds like. But you did go to college.
Yes. I graduated with a 3.9425, but then I didn't work.
Not too bad.
But I didn't know anything about business. And so I was learning everything on the fly and under an immense amount of pressure and being in a really hard mental mindset. And as soon as I moved out, I was like, I know I work best under pressure. My whole life I work best under pressure. So I basically said to myself, I'd rather create a pressure cooker for myself and put positive energy into making my own money, the negative energy, trying to find money that I don't know if it exists. And even if it does, I didn't want to touch it. And I also saw my mother for 7 years fight over money with my father. And even though she got some money, I see how she never, even if, being financially secure is a mindset. It doesn't matter how much money you have. Financial security is not about how much money you have. It's your relationship with money. And I saw that struggle for her and the divorce created a really unhealthy relationship with money. And I didn't want that. And I knew that no matter how much money you get, also, it doesn't last you forever. You need to figure it out. And I definitely was not going to get married again for the sake of financial security.
You know what the number one stressor for people worth 30 million plus is? Running out of money. It's a mindset. It's a mindset. They work there especially for new money, not old money. People who don't inherit money, which is 81% of the U.S. or 79% of the U.S. is new money, and the main stressor that they have is financial insecurity.
But would you say you got married originally for financial security? Is that what you're saying?
No, not at all. Not at all. All the guys I was dating were rich. I come from the New York Jewish community. It was just like a prerequisite, I didn't even realize that people didn't have money. Sorry to sound like entitled and spoiled. Really what's spoiled.
Yeah, absolutely. So you get to this point of, okay, I need to make $500,000, and I want to get a little deeper down. You get to this point that I have to make $500,000 a year, and there's so many artists that want to do that. But how do you monetize how do you take this trade that people do in such love and passion and monetize that? Like how'd you marry the two?
So I knew I needed to parlay it onto a product that was scalable. Before I accidentally became an artist, my first creative passion was cooking and tablescaping. And when we lost our money, and in my head I was going to become a businesswoman, I was going to do that as like a private chef and dinner party hostess for people. Then I accidentally became an artist, but I wanted to get that element that I used to love back into my life. And when I got divorced, it was the first time I was like, wait, I can't go spend, $1,000, $1,500 on groceries to host 25 people for Shabbat dinner and hire 2 housekeepers. Oh shit. And I was like, I want to create a product that will bring all the things that I love into my business model, because I knew that the only thing I was going to be able to do in my life was to work based on the pressure I created on myself. And I got a divorce settlement. We had exited an app that we were the seed investors in called Priv to Comcast Ventures. I took less than my fair share of the settlement. I said, I'm going to hire a graphic designer, mock up this collection of dinnerware and home decor. And this is going to be my scalable product. When I was in college, I was an intern for the same company for 4 years called Parker. They created they did about $50 million a year in revenue after like 7 years in business, where they took very strong prints and they applied them to very strong bodies, and they did really well. I want to take that same concept and apply it to dinnerware. It was also the only business experience I had for the whole wholesale trade shows, selling to buyers around the world. And that's the only thing I knew. So that's what I wanted to do. But in dinnerware, I hired a graphic designer to mock up a collection. Through the grace of God, I had linked up with my mentor, Barry Erber, huge Israel advocate, actually, who owns the largest luxury girls accessories line in the United States. And she started helping me with manufacturing. I was going to, competitive brands that I liked, buying products. She was sending them to China to get molds.
What did you have to do to get this mentor? Because this is the key. But can you give?
You have to be open.
What does that mean?
So you need to ask people for help. You need to tell people what you're doing and ask people for help, right? I think I've learned that one of the people's biggest fears is to ask people for help. It makes them feel weak. Actually, being vulnerable and asking for help is a sign of strength. You can, having always taken care of myself and always having to have my own back, I actually have learned that everyone in this world needs help. Okay. You're not going to get it if you don't ask for it. You have to be resilient when asking for it. So if you ask for help and then someone says no, you also can be like, oh, but I asked for help and they said no. My feelings are so hurt. Ask. All that means is that they weren't the right person to help you. It left the door open for the right person to help you. And ask 20 people until you find the right person that's going to give you the help.
Well, maybe ask that person again. Maybe ask that same person again. It's possible. They don't take no for an answer. And Elizabeth, I would say also that when you say you didn't know anything about business, I don't buy that for a second.
Yeah, I don't buy it.
To me, it sounds like you actually knew a lot about business, and you got a lot even out of your internship and being in college. And when you started with this, with your new business, your own resiliency and your background and your business knowledge and your acumen, I think I think you were destined for success from the beginning. So I don't buy that baloney at all when you say you didn't know anything.
I didn't know much. I knew very little. And now I'd say.
So now we got you up to not knowing much, but I still don't even buy that.
No, I did not know much. I wish I had known just even certain elementary things that I know now from the very beginning that would have changed my entire business.
What were those things that you wished you would have known that our listeners can take?
If I could tell people starting a business right now, first of all, be organized from the start. From a legal perspective, incorporate yourself, have an accountant or a bookkeeper. You obviously don't need an external CFO from the beginning, but you need to know your financial model, build a cost of goods model. You need to understand your profitability, your margins, right? I would just make up numbers. I had no clue what I was doing. The only way I knew I was making money is because I wasn't going broke. Okay. That's one thing. So understanding your numbers, keeping organized of your numbers. The second thing is utilizing a CRM from the start. If you don't want to pay a subscription, Excel is a free CRM, customer relationship management system. So every single person that you meet, within my business, I have my fine art clients, I have my fashion clients, I have my interior designers, I have my sponsors, I have my collaborations, I have my vendors, I have my interns. So you can have your different categories, and then you pipeline each person that you meet. That's a valuable asset, right? Because maybe business is slow and you forgot that person's name. The second I meet someone after they've walked away, since I'm so bad with names and I meet so many people, like after I met you, I'd write, oh, met him at the October 7th Sefer Torah dedication. He has a financial advisory firm, 2 kids, ages 3 and 1, lives on the Upper East Side, grew up in Teaneck. I'll remember one of those details about you, and then I'll go in my phone book, which I then bring into my CRM, and write Teaneck, and I'll find you. Okay. And so I write notes on everybody on top of remembering. Also, when you're following up with someone, they want to feel that you remembered something about their lives. When you can have a personal touch point as opposed to just a general one. Oh, how's your daughter doing? Oh, did your wife give birth yet? I forget my own name sometimes. Not to be rude, but I'm definitely
It's
not
not just me yet here. It's not just me.
Yes, but she has a system to defend against the senility.
It's not just me that forgets names.
So a CRM is extremely important. Like, for example, if art commissions are slow and I've pipelined a bunch of people who have inquired about fine art, I can go to that segment and I can write fine art and let me follow up with this person. So a CRM, and then technologies, right? And I'm still learning about technologies, and I'm about to change my life now, learning about automation within social media. Another technology that I love is DocSend to gather emails and also to track all my decks. But SOPs, right? Standard operating procedures. I had no clue what the hell that was until I'd say I was 4 or 5 years into my business. Quite frankly, the first 4 or 5 years of my career don't even exist. They don't exist because I didn't have a CRM. I didn't know that I had to take professional photographs of every single artwork because a shitty photograph is not worth anything. I did not know what an SOP was, which is, anything that you do in your company more than once needs to get put into a spreadsheet so you can track everything and so you can analyze data. So I would say a CRM and SOPs were the biggest things that I learned that changed my life. And now I'm getting more into learning about AI and automation to streamline my social media, because I don't do that at all. And I literally think it's going to double my revenues. That's what I was doing right before this podcast. So I didn't know about any of that.
It's very usual. That's a very standard. When I was even in business school, one of the things they said in the small business class is that it takes at least 2 years until anybody breaks even. And it's a lot of for that reason, because you're learning. You're learning about the business and you're getting to that point.
When I am super rich and I retire and do philanthropy full time, I have a few things that I want to teach people, but my 2 biggest pet causes before I became an Israel advocate are to help people shift their mindset when it comes to divorce. Even though my ex and I obviously don't like each other, right? We got divorced for a reason. We love each other because I'm the mother of his kids and he's the father of my kids. So what hurts him will hurt my kids, and what hurts me will hurt my kids. And I only learned to push aside my own ego and the ways in which, let's say, he hurts me in order to what's best for my kids, because my parents, mostly my mother was just like in divorce, it actually does not take 2 to tango. It takes 1 to tango within the judicial system. And my father harmed both my mother and the children a lot. We were used as like pawns to hurt my mother. I was like, that's not going to happen for my kids. So my ex-husband has holiday dinners with my family, no matter what is going on between us. Okay. So that is one thing that I want to teach people, how to shift their mindset when it comes to divorce, because people just let all their anger and animosity get in the way. I don't care who cheated, who stole, who did what. You're getting divorced for a reason. It's on to the next. Let it go.
The whole point is that you can move on, but once you hold, it's they're renting free space in your head.
The other thing I want to teach people is intro to business for entrepreneurs. All these systems, all these small little things that if you just learn them, it can take an hour. You can learn it in an hour. It will literally change the entire trajectory of your career.
It took us a while to get into the CRM space. We started using Zoho. We have these Zoho is a great CRM that we use. Even we just start with Excel. Like we would write down, like I just did things all the time. Like every time I spoke to somebody, I would set a reminder, like little stuff that you can use. Like having QuickBooks on your phones, you can actually track your expenses is a huge thing. Like not just having everything funneled to your personal account is a huge thing. Like making sure it's in a separate account, even if it's in your name. And yes, you're commingling a little bit, or like making sure you pick the right advisors when you're first starting. What is the difference between lawyer A and lawyer B? What's the difference between accountant A and accountant B? So you built this practice now. And what I'm all I'm hearing, and I'm sure my dad's feeling the same way, is that you have this sustainable practice that you can hold to, that it's not just how good is your next artwork and how nice is your next piece. Like, how do you create sustainability in an art practice?
So that was it was interesting. Also, what I was heard from you before was that when things are a little bit slow, you're going through your CRM to see who was it that bought before, who is it those who are those clients. That's key to any type of sales. I used to work for like a Silver Judaica company called Swed Master Workshop. They did high end, and they had a very in depth database that they never used until I got there. But that was a key thing. Just to go back, see who are those, because for you, there's a certain type of person that will buy what you're selling in the art world. And you need to know who that, and those people can buy multiple times. And if you're not touching them, they'll forget about you.
So yes, I actually don't even sell to the 1%ers. I sell to the 0.01%ers when it comes to my fine art. I'd say my average artwork right now is about $15,000. So it's really not accessible. And I am actually still in the process of creating a scalable business. I would not say that I've 100% succeeded in that yet. And I'll get back to kind of why. When I left my marriage, I actually really had a focused vision that I wanted to launch this dinnerware collection. And that's where I was putting my energy. And unfortunately, 6 months after I left, my best friend / my art assistant was killed in my car leaving my birthday party.
Sorry to hear that.
It was catastrophic. You asked what was my practice. After that happened, I was so messed up in the head that I checked myself into grief counseling 7 days a week. Shout out to Debbie Mezrahi, who truly saved my life. And every single penny of disposable income that I had went to therapy. I honestly was honest in the worst place. Like I was like a dead woman walking. I had no feelings. And my way of survival, so I didn't go broke because I would have gone broke. I actually lost a lot of money in that car accident. My car was totaled. I don't want to get into the mess of my divorce and finances, but like everything I did to protect myself actually backfired, like paying money in advance on my car. My car was totaled. I didn't get that money back. Then I had to hire attorneys to deal with insurance companies because I couldn't even move forward in my life until I stopped dealing with the chaos of the car accident. Detectives, and it was a disaster. And my way of coping was just to put one foot in front of the other and to achieve things within my career. But the things that was achieving, there was no longer a cohesive or focused strategy. It was just like survive, and not even financially survive. It was like mentally survive, achieve things to come back mentally to life. Actually, that car accident, I hate to say it, is the best thing that ever happened to my life because I had a lot of trauma growing up that I didn't realize impacted me very badly. And I was always in survival mode, putting one foot in front of the other and never pausing to work on myself, to heal myself in order to get to thrival mode. And my life had never gotten bad enough to make me do that. And I realized I had a lot of poor learned formative behaviors from my fundamental years as a child as a result of my parents' divorce, bullies in high school, a lot of lashon hara, gossip about me. And that was a catalyst for me to start working on all the trauma in my life. After my grief counselor graduated me from, the shock and grief of that car accident, I started working on my daddy issues, on my financial insecurities with a different therapist. So that was, one method. Everyone was trying to tell me I should get on antidepressants. I refused. I went do the hard work. Anything that's easy, anything that comes easy, in my opinion, goes easy. I did the hard work, self-reflection, 7 days a week grief counseling, investing my money into it because that is no cheap endeavor. And, that's honestly saved my life. I also surround myself with positive messaging. Everything I would create, I created the mantras as paintings that I needed to know. Just breathe, keeping it real, but with good vibes only. Art heals all wounds. dance through the pain. I made these all into paintings and I hung them all around my room.
That's so interesting. That's so interesting that you were able to take that piece of your past and how you got out of it. Like I never had to put positive art around me. It's just not something that I ever had to think about, and never motivated me, never did anything. But for people who go through these types of traumas, to put it down on paper and to put it around them is it's so important. Like I know people that have sticky notes, like you can do it, you're great, like you're good, and it really, really helps people. And you're doing it. You took this past and what got you through it and put it on art, and that's probably why I think your art sold so well.
So good art is emotional. It also, I'm telling you, my art saved my life. There's a lot to color theory, and it made my brain happy through the process. But it's not just about mantras, right? Like you might feel motivated by looking at a landscape of the Brooklyn Bridge because that's where you proposed to your wife. So if that's the imagery that makes you feel good, that's what you put in front of your desk. I find it so interesting. I'll go into these magnificently designed homes that are multi-million dollar homes, and there's no art on the walls. And it's like the designer built a model's body and forgot to give it a soul. And these people will carry $10,000 bags and they will cheap out on buying a $10,000 piece of art. But the art you see every single day, that bag, you maybe wear it once a month. It's such an interesting thing for me. And I'm telling you, I have art on every single inch of my wall. When I take just one artwork down because it's sold or whatever, changes the entire energy of the room. Art is energy, is what I've learned as an artist. I didn't know this prior to becoming an artist.
Yeah, it's very deep. So when you're advising now, let's say you're going into something new, you're going to unknown territory. Let's first talk about this Israel advocacy platform that you've used, and let's talk about the positivity you got from speaking up for Israel, because you did it in a real way, and I know it affected you. It challenged your business. How's that?
So we're going to use positive words because words are creation. So yes, even when I'm talking about things that are challenging, I try and phrase it in a way that's positive, just like positive art. It's the same thing. There's no actual truth to anything in life. It's your truth, right? There's always three sides, your side, my side, and the truth. The truth is whatever you tell your brain. So if I tell my brain that I effed up my business and that's what I did and that's what I'm going to create. If I tell my brain that I stayed aligned with my value system, I maintained my dignity, and I know I did the right thing, and for that God is rewarding me. Nothing great comes without momentary transitional challenges. So I shifted and pivoted my business from an artist and designer who worked with large corporations to do live paintings, create art programming, art exhibitions, which those are things that I actually love within my career. And hopefully in time, not hopefully, in time, they will come back. But I was also in a moment in my career where I was going to take an investor for the first time. And my advocacy made me realize that when you have investors, you have a fiduciary responsibility to always shut the F up. Okay. You have to make the most money for your investors. That just doesn't align with my personality type. My career for me symbolizes a lot more than financial freedom. It symbolizes me aligning with my value system. I told you I was married and I didn't feel that I felt like I was becoming a worse version of myself. There's a lot more to me than money. And I believe that when you're fully aligned with yourself, with your value system, with God, that's when you're really happy. That's when you'll have everything, whether it's the love, the money, the partner.
Maybe you can find the right investor for yourself. Maybe there's the right person to find that can do all of that for you. It does exist.
You know what? I realized I don't need an investor. I got myself to the finish line and I was just not crossing it. Okay. So
that's
thank
the best.
God.
Without one is always the best. If you don't need it, don't take it.
Yeah, what was my dad's very close friend is the founder of Sirius Satellite Radio. What was his advice on partnerships, Dad?
He always says, never take a partner unless you must have one. That means that either there's some kind of expertise that he can only bring as a partner, not hiring, that you can't find it, or money that you only can that you need that money. Otherwise, never take a partner. It never ends well.
So I'm telling you that God works in mysterious ways. When you are aligned with your value system, God gives you blessings. I was going to take an investor because I thought I needed, $2 million to grow my business. I actually never plumbed money into sales. It was all organic. and inbound. I do zero, even to this day, zero outbound sales. I'm about to change that up. Okay. But I do zero. So it's all inbound. So first of all, one of the blessings, I did not take an investor, and thank God, God blessed me with Parnassa because I did the right thing. So I decided in March, I organized an entire volunteer mission to Israel to do art therapy with 1,000 traumatized individuals, from Nova survivors to soldiers on the bases, soldiers in hospitals, evacuees, first responders. And I dedicated my life for 3 months just planning that and funding it.
Yeah, it's this whole thing is really, it's a lot of work. People don't realize, oh, I just showed up to this nice event. It's like, yeah, I'm not an events coordinator. I don't work for some shul or whatever. Like there's work.
Beyond the work, it was also just, I absorbed a lot of people's trauma, and I needed to decompress that for myself while simultaneously digesting all these shifts and pivots that I had created as a result, that I didn't have any time to digest while I was planning. So I came back from this trip at the end of January. I was like, wow, I have a lot to process. In March, I took myself to Costa Rica. I was like, what am I going to do? I need to make some bold decisions. And I said, you know what? I'm going to invest in this dinnerware collection by myself. This was always my dream. And actually, right before the war broke out, I had to terminate a deal I had. It was a licensing deal. So you asked me, like, how did I start to make scalable money? After that car accident, I did my first licensing deal with Joe and the Juice. I was like, wow, this is interesting. That put my name on the map on an international scale.
Yeah, I remember actually. I actually think that's the first time I saw you.
So I designed all their coffee and juice cups for 17 retail locations in New York City. We did a big collaboration that involved, Art of Elysium. I took over their Soho flagship location with my artwork. And I was like, wow, this is interesting. And I started engaging in licensing. I had no clue what licensing was. And licensing is actually the only passive revenue stream that I have. And it's an amazing revenue stream, but I created my licensing ass backwards. Most people build a brand first. I hustled myself the deals that helped me build my brand. And I love licensing. Long term, I will be a licensing brand because actually my gift as an artist is that I'm a very prolific designer. Whereas many artists can only design within a certain domain, you give me a subject matter, a space, and a direction, and I can design it from mass to luxury based on, you tell me the purpose of the project, your demographic, and I'm delivering that to you. And I can do it very quickly. So I'm like prime for licensing. However, first, I need to create my bread and butter scalable manufacturing and distribution product, which is going to be my dinnerware now. After that car accident, I was working on the dinnerware. I accidentally launched fashion. It was lower hanging fruit. I could bring it to market much quicker and for much less money. And I said, okay. And I did that.
I want to stop for a second, and I just want to
wait. I just want to make one comment that, Elizabeth, I think you should stop saying the word accident, because I don't believe for you anything happens accidentally.
It wasn't a car purpose.
It was an accident.
No, you can say car accident, but accidentally you sold your art the first time. Accidentally, now you got into fashion. I don't believe any of that. I think everything you do is either consciously intentional or subconsciously intentional.
Well, you know what I tell myself now? Had I launched dinnerware back then, it may not have been successful because I did not know all the things like CRMs, digital marketing.
I don't believe that either. I don't buy that either.
I'm going to disagree with you on this point because now it brings me to my point. I think you got very, you were put in the right places to launch the dinnerware because it's very crucial. Dinnerware costs a lot of money. You have to invest a lot of money. So what people will do when they say, okay, I'm going to launch this product that requires a lot of money, what they'll do is they'll borrow, they'll take investors, they'll do all this other stuff when it's too early. What you did is similar to that. Exactly what we did is we made big profit centers very, very quickly that required no time. Only later, 7-8 years, did we start really investing money into our business. And that has built a much stronger foundation and much more scalable money, as you were saying. So I actually think it's a very great business point that it doesn't always require money to make money. It requires time to make money. You traded time for money at the beginning.
So
No,
yes.
I'm gonna continue to disagree because I think Elizabeth, you would have figured it out one way or another.
My
If
dad has a lot
something, any kind of roadblocks would have come, you would have figured out how to either go through or around, over it or around. Somehow you
Dad,
would have figured it out.
I've never
That's
seen you
who
so
you are.
Dad,
That's
I've never
just who you are.
I think my dad's secretly in love with you. Dad, I've never seen you so loving in your
No,
life.
because that's, I can see what she's like. I see what she is.
Yeah.
But I really believe that, you know, everything happens in the right time. And I do believe that the right time for my dinnerware is now. So I mentioned it was a licensing deal, a Jewish company that were completely dishonest. We came to market. I'm sorry to say it. It is what it is.
Some Jews are dishonest.
Yeah, correct. So we're not impervious.
No, you didn't say the name.
Normal.
You didn't say
Yeah.
you didn't say the name because you don't want to have a Lashon Hara.
No, I would. I actually, unfortunately, had to publicly call them out because they were stealing in my name, and I didn't even know. And they were causing me a lot of problems. A lot. Doesn't matter anyway. Positive vibes. We're focusing on the positive. The whole point was that it really was emotionally extremely upsetting. I had to terminate that deal the day after we came to market. I put 16 months and a lot of passion. I was just, as a product category, this dinnerware is my passion. I don't know what to tell you, but I love setting tables and I love cooking much more than I like to design outfits of the day and stylize my clutches and my belts, which is quite frankly probably why I never turned that product category that I manufacture and distribute myself into a multi-million-dollar revenue stream.
The advice here, and I feel like I'm breaking down a lot of the things you're saying because there's so much quality in what you're saying. The advice that I'm getting from that is you have passions and you work your passions. And if you didn't feel passionate about something, it wasn't going to be successful. So you steer towards your passions, and there's enough money in everyone's passions. So when people say, "Oh, do what you're passionate about," yes, that's great, but you need to do what you're passionate about in the right fit and the right category when you're in business, and you can actually afford to go through that. So continue.
And not only will it make your life happier, it inadvertently creates a very structurally sound business from a tax perspective, right? So now I love to cook. If I have a cooking blog and I have dinnerware, if I'm buying groceries so I can create content for this product category, it is marketing. I can deduct it. I love to travel. All of my patterns are developed from photos I take when I travel. I deduct my travel. You can't tell me I'm not working. I work 24/7. So I accidentally, inadvertently, subconsciously.
We agreed. I thought we agreed not to use that word.
I know she changed it. She changed it for you.
Words are creation. Correct. He's right, by the way.
He's a very wise.
That.
He's a very wise person.
But I created a tax sound, business infrastructure that, by the way, had I taken an investor, that would have been over. So anyway, I made the decision to invest in my dinnerware. And I said, thank God I have savings. Okay, I'm going to do this myself. In my initial plan, when I was doing this raise, I was going to allocate $500,000 out of the $2 million that I wanted to raise. It's like, I don't have $500,000 to invest. I'm going to take $150,000 out of my savings, which was a very significant portion of my savings. And because if I don't believe in it, who's going to believe in it? And I said, I'm going to do this. But simultaneously acknowledging that I was going to be willing to confront that fear of touching my savings, which as a single mom who is fully self-supportive, that is definitely not the easiest thing to say. I simultaneously manifested that I was going to earn all this additional money from cash flow. And I fucking did.
Can I just ask one thing? Can I just ask one thing? What is this dinnerware? Like, what is that? Is that forks and plates and stuff?
You don't understand what my dad's asking. He's asking what is
products?
dinnerware. No. What is dinnerware? He doesn't even know what dinnerware is. Is that correct, Dad?
That's correct, yes.
What is dinnerware? Like, is that plates and cups and things like that? No, like, what is the category called dinnerware?
I'm going to tell you right now.
All right, good.
First of all, it's going to be on a new website. Right now, my brand is ElizabethSuttonCollection.com. It's going to be on ElizabethSuttonHome.com for a number of reasons that we can get into after if you'd like. But I'm launching with 5 SKUs and 10 collections.
SKUs are product lines.
A melamine dinner plate, melamine salad plate, melamine bowl, vinyl placemat, and a faux linen wrinkle-free napkin. Every single decision I made with this collection was so conscientious. And it's probably not probably. It is my most brilliant thing I've
What
ever
was the
designed.
first word you said? Melanie? What was that? I didn't
Melamine.
get that.
So melamine is a very durable plastic. I'm very fancy. I'm very casual. Like I live in sweatpants, but I have two. I'm either fully casual or extremely fancy.
Mhm.
And when it comes to my home, I'm definitely fancy. So I like to set my tables in fine bone china. But when I became a mother, half my table was kids, half my table was adults. So I'd have this beautifully set side of the table. And then I'd have the other side of the table that was set with the nicest plastic, but it looked completely not cohesive and it killed me. So I said, you know what? I'm going to copy the look of fine bone china on a durable, child friendly product. And I took the molds from fine bone china and I sent them to the factory to copy the mold so that they're elevated, because all melamine right now, for the most part, is flat. And it's also child friendly and it's dishwasher safe. And I
So
designed
you're not throwing it out in the garbage after you eat it. You're saying it's washable.
correct
You're
in the
keeping it,
dishwasher.
and it's plastic, but it's plastic. It's like we could serve it for Shabbat dinner because whatever. It doesn't have to be like the main kind of thing. What kind of? Can I ask you? Can I ask you what kind of price points you're talking about?
So I'm in the accessible luxury market. Right now, my brand is luxury. And I didn't want to go into the mass market, but I did want to be much more accessible because at the end of the day, I want to be an inspirational brand. I don't want to cheapen my brand yet. I am retail for a set of 4 ranges from $72 to $98. $72 for a set of 4 napkins, $80 for a set of 4 salad plates, $98 for a set of 4 dinner plates, $78 for a set of 4 bowls, and $88 for a set of 12
What's the
placemats.
total price? If I want to get a set of 4 of everything, what am I looking at? Like $500?
Less. So I actually have a starter set of 3. So just the bowl, salad, and dinner. And then I have the hostess set of 5, one of each. The starter set of 3 is like $276, I think. I don't want to name you the wrong. I have to look at my SKU master sheet.
I just want to get an idea of what it is. And of course, there's going to be the podcaster's discount that whoever has you on their podcast will have.
Sure. What's the discount code right now? And I'll make it when my site goes live.
I think a 15% makes sense.
It's aggressive. We're going to go 10. I'm not offering any discounts when I launch. So we're going to go. I need to look at my cost of goods.
I don't know. That's what you can come back to us. We got no problem.
Model.
But my dad's actually looking because he sounds like he's shopping for himself. Dad, you could check the website later for it.
We're going to make a code. Remind me.
I have to send my wife to it because I can't make any move without her.
Resilient Riches 15 is a good code.
We're going to have to make it active only for like a few months because like I'm really not offering discounts.
No problem. So let's go back to you. And I
remind me.
I have a few questions for you before we wrap up. So I want to make sure you've had this really tough Israel advocacy point, and we've actually felt it too. But I think that we didn't get affected a 50th of what people like you got affected on because you deal with brands, you deal with partnerships. How have you been able to navigate that point?
So the reality is that if I want to get back to my other elements of business that I still love, like working with the most luxury hospitality around the world, the Eden Rock St. Bart's, the one and only hotels, I need to separate my advocacy from my brand. And it doesn't mean that I need to shut up about my advocacy. It just means that I need to separate them from a sales perspective to create a degree of separation. Yes, if you research me and Google me or look at my regular Instagram, you're going to find my advocacy. However, right now I'm launching an accessible product. It's not a product that you're going to spend $20,000, so you're going to research who it is. I'm trying to remove myself more from the brand regardless, even though it's my name, but to remove my face, to remove a little bit of the personality and sell more of the product. It's more of an impulse purchase style price point that people can purchase from a TikTok store to Meta ads, PPC ads, Google ads. I've never invested in ads, and this is the first time I'm going to. So I have to create a degree of separation, or I will never be able to work with these corporate brands. Corporate brands are vanilla. And in fact, one of the most interesting case studies I ever read, and this was years ago, was a case study by MIT, the folly of rewarding A while hoping for B. And that's the exact infrastructure that exists within the corporate climate right now. Let's say the CEOs know what's right. Their practices within their business have to align with being a vanilla. And that's the reality. And as much as I want to be a trailblazer and ruffle feathers, which is a new artwork that I just made, inspired by my advocacy.
Very nice. Ruffle feathers.
There is a degree by which you have to play by the rules, unless I want to target only Jews, which I don't. As much as I love Jews, I don't. I want to make money and give my money back to the causes that I support.
Well, you have a fiduciary duty to your family.
Again, I thank God took care of me clearly while I was advocating for Israel, but it's not just a fiduciary responsibility. I lost a lot of elements within my company that I love. I used to get paid, not just was it free, not just were they flying me out, putting me up, paying for my food and beverage at literally hotels that were $2,500 plus a night with my team. There was a financial model underlying it. I was getting paid at least 20 grand roughly to be there, to paint live on the beach in the nicest hotels in the world. Don't you think I want to do that again? Because I look, not to sound arrogant, but you put me in hair and makeup, I look like a model and I know how to multitask. So while I'm painting, I can engage with the guests.
No, it's your business.
You're saying you lost all that because of the advocacy? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I had people on social media directly message every single one of my partners, and they're not just bots, they're actual people saying, how could you work with Elizabeth Sutton considering her blatant and obvious racism? And when I'm being used as a marketing tool to help their business, that turns me from an asset into a liability. They don't want to deal with that.
But I would say that if you're doing, like, I would go back to what you said before, when you're doing the right thing, God will provide for you. And it looks like he has. So, it's all good.
Dad, you should make mom a customer.
Please.
So I have no buying power myself for this kind of thing. It's all my wife has to.
So Elizabeth, last question for you. You've had this really amazing life so far, and it's been filled with blessings and good and positivity and high energy. But you've had these moments of resilience, and these are we call them defining moments. What would be the defining moment in your life that allowed you to be so resilient and tough when things were challenging over time?
I mean, I had so many. I mentioned a bunch, but honestly, it was that car accident that, we went from the scene of my birthday party, huge celebration, the biggest celebration of my career to date. It was my first art basel, to the scene of a car accident, to the scene of a trauma unit, back to my kids, realizing I had zero emotions inside me. He went brain dead on my birthday, died the next day. People are calling to wish me happy birthday. I'm screaming at them. It's not a happy birthday. I was literally dead inside. I was a dead woman walking, and I had to build myself back from that. And now I see it as my biggest blessing, because what I've learned, most people go through life fearing death. I do not fear death. God decides it's your time when it's your time, and we have no way around it. Whether you get hit by a bus, whether you get cancer, whether you trip down the stairs and knock your head, we all die. Some people can live till 110 years old and they never live. If I die walking out of this building, because that's literally, I think about death all the time, it doesn't scare me, because I know that I live my life to the fullest every single day, and that I have done within my life everything I can within my time here to maximize my impact, my achievements, my passions, what I love, what I want to do, being a good mom. So I don't really live my life in fear of death. I fear being alive and not living.
That's very deep. Elizabeth Sutton, everybody. Elizabeth, how can people find you?
You can follow me on my @Elizabeth Sutton Collection Instagram, which is going to be a little more of my lifestyle and my art. I'm in the process of a transition, right? I need to now shift my users' behaviors. So on Elizabeth Sutton Collection, then my products are going to be on @Elizabeth Sutton Home. My current website is elizabethsuttoncollection.com, and that will still have my art, my limited edition prints, but my new products are going to be on elizabethsuttonhome.com, and that will launch in about 2 weeks, God willing. So you can follow me on both.
Elizabeth Sutton, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for sharing so much of yourself, and thank you for sharing how somebody can go from nothing and build something to something. That's the whole concept of resilient riches, is building something that you built from zero, and then having that brand and having those riches last forever, and that those riches will be resilient. That's what you've basically created. You've gone through a lot of hell and you've only found positivity from it. So really appreciate you being here. Really appreciate everything you're doing. I really appreciate your advocacy for the Jews. It's not unnoticed, and people really appreciate you.
I appreciate this opportunity being on this podcast. Thank you very much. And it was very nice to meet you at your October 7th. I met my boyfriend there. So that's a blessing.
That's it. We're about shidduchim. I'm over like 1,000 dates, but maybe I'll get one.
Okay.
You never know.
I'll keep you posted.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll see you on the next one.